So, I'd like to introduce Steve Evans, and welcome Steve.
Thank you.
And alumni from the HND Fine Art,
Yeah.
which we now call HND Art Practice,
Okay.
which is a slight difference.
Yeah.
But welcome, and thank you for giving this interview.
Not at all.
So, first question. Can you describe your HND Art Practice, which is Fine Art, experience in terms of when you started and your progression throughout the course? So,
Okay. I came to this from a foundation which I'd started having had a career as a mature student. I came as a mature student having had a career as an engineer, and I had taken up art as towards the end of my engineering career as a fairly serious hobby.
right.
And I decided that when I had more time, I really ought to find out a bit more about it. So I did the foundation, thoroughly enjoyed that, and decided to carry on. I thought I'll do HND because I was doing them part-time, and I didn't fancy going off to a university and doing another 6 years of it.
Yeah.
So,
makes sense.
so I did the HND course. Also, partly because I liked where I was and I liked the people. It was the same college. The practice initially I found slightly difficult, and I remember one particular incident where I was complaining about drawing tools and saying I must have drawn this hammer every way I possibly could, and Linda said to me, "Solowit wouldn't have said that." And so I was well put in my place. And it really set me thinking, and she set me thinking a lot of times through the course, and I think that really is the great gift of it. It sets your mind free and makes you think around problems that you come across in different ways.
Yeah, fantastic.
It released a practice that I hadn't even considered. When I started all of this and it was a hobby, I was really trying not to be an engineer, and this changed it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Just to check. So your foundation course, was that here at Stourbridge College as well as the HND?
Yes.
Okay.
I spent the second year of it with Paul.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Question 2. What were your highlights during the HND?
There is one major highlight for me with this, and that was we did a project called Recognising the Unseen, and I saw a doorway in the Lower High Street in Stourbridge which had been altered, and I recognised the alteration and made an intervention and filmed people's reaction to that intervention. And when it was in the final, last exhibition of the year, Patrick Gaines said to me, "Why did you do that, Steve?" And I said, "Well, Patrick, they'd altered the arch support and the forces didn't really work properly." And he said, "Well, how do you know?" I said, "You know my background, I'm a structural engineer." And he said, "No, why are you trying to hide it?" And that completely changed my view.
Wow. Okay.
And it changed my practice within a month.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was the major breakthrough. I've quoted it to a lot of people a lot of times. It was a major highlight.
Yeah. Wow. So that set you on a, essentially
It
brought you
set-
back to yourself.
It did. It set
Reminded
me off.
you who you were.
I mean, this is based on torsion, the structural action of torsion.
Okay.
I wouldn't ever have thought of doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it set me off to going back to the technical drawing that I'd learnt as a youngster in the drawing office before computers.
Yeah, of course.
And got me into this, and then
Yeah.
developing that and using my engineering experience in developing those ideas.
Okay. So in a strange way, that comment from Patrick gave you permission, not that you needed permission, but it kind of gave you permission to say, oh, actually, my entire career as a structural engineer can be hugely significant.
Well, he also then said, you see things slightly differently because of your background.
Yeah.
Quite rock on, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And what a perceptive, I always think, what a perceptive man.
Yes. Good. Okay, great. So, third question. Can you explain how the HND prepared you post-graduation or after graduation
it showed me, when we did the professional practice module,
Yes.
it showed me that being an artist, in a professional sense, was very similar to being a consulting engineer, in that you're trying to sell yourself and your ideas. And you've got to communicate with people. This is a means of communication, but you also have to communicate verbally and in written form with people to get them to see what you're doing, to look at what you're doing, and to engage with you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So it prepared me well for that. I mean, I perhaps had an advantage in that I've been doing that for years. But I think when you start off with art, you don't think about that side of it.
No.
And I think it's desperately important.
Yeah, yeah. And that professional practice module, which we still do now, in a slightly different guise, has the same effect on current students.
Yes. And I have to say, I was very, very impressed with Linda's professionalism. I mean, I dealt with Linda more than anybody.
Of course.
She was fantastically professional.
Yes, yes. Good. So, question 4. Can you explain what you've achieved since graduating in terms of your practice?
I have exhibited quite widely around the Midlands, and further afield up to Sheffield, across to Liverpool, and so on. I entered a number of opens. One of those I entered was for the RBSA in Birmingham. I'd never ever thought about the RBSA before. And I entered 2 works, both were accepted and hung, and I offered to go in and steward one afternoon, and met up with somebody who I knew vaguely from other interests, and he suggested to me I ought to think about perhaps joining the RBSA, and I said yes, okay. I then joined as a friend, because actually it's a nice gallery to exhibit in, and joining as a friend meant it cost a lot less. Yeah. Good. So I then took some of my work to critique evenings there, and that was quite interesting, because they hadn't seen anything like this before. No. And so it opened my eyes a little bit. And anyway, I'd been involved with a small festival in Wolverhampton called the Junction Festival. And following on from that, I had met people from Eagle Works in Wolverhampton. Okay. And so I asked them, could I use their gallery for a while? And said, yes, I could. I could hire the gallery. In fact, they never charged me, but I did hire the gallery. And I had a show there, and I invited a number of people who I'd met in the RBSA. And the Friends coordinator was one of those people. And he turned up right at the end of the opening evening. And he waited to the end, and he said to me, you've got a body of work in here which would, I think, get you into the RBSA as an associate if you're interested. Oh, okay. So I said, quite interesting. Yes, I would be interested. Yeah, yeah. And told him about the other chap who'd mentioned it to me, so they sponsored me. Yeah. The process of doing that is your application has to be approved by council, and you are then entered into the candidates exhibition, where you show 6 works. And as somebody said to me, they judge you on the weakest one. Right, okay. And you have to get 50% plus 1 of the available votes to be elected. I was elected. Oh, fantastic. As soon as I was elected, and they already knew my background, they got me to help them out the maintenance of the building and so because it has to run like that. Of course, it's an artist cooperative. Yeah, really. Absolutely. And that went on for a couple of years, and then somebody said, who was elected at the same time as me, you're going to go for member. And I said, so we both went at the same time. Similar process, another 6 works. And I was elected again. Superb. And I was like, wow, this is great. Yeah. And carried on with what I was doing. Yeah. And then there was a man called Paul Hipkiss, who's an artist, a drink maker, around Coventry, lovely man. Was always very, very encouraging to me and others. But he was such a positive, and he was the honorary curator of that institution. He became very ill, and I'd been a part of the hanging team. Yeah. So it's a really good way to get to know other artists. Yeah, of course, absolutely. And so in doing all of that, I got to know Paul quite well. Then he became very ill, and I went to see him, and we chatted.
Yeah.
And then, in the end, he died.
Okay.
I was asked, would I be interested in becoming acting honorary curator? So I said, yes, I would, on the understanding I didn't do the maintenance any longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was elected to be honorary curator in that position I hold now.
Yeah, of course.
And I've been doing that for about 18 months.
Oh gosh, great. So
which is a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've exhibited, as I say, locally at Wolverhampton Art Gallery, in Cradley Heath,
the art yard.
The art yard. And from there, somebody said to me, you ought to be in the Liverpool school because they like geometric urban themes. So I joined the Liverpool school. So I was shown in the Unity Theatre and in Liverpool, and the Atkinson up in Southport.
Wow.
As a result of that.
Okay. Gosh.
And so that's really where I'm at.
Yeah.
Where I've got to.
Yeah.
So what started life as a hobby through courses here has turned into a nearly full-time occupation.
Yeah, yeah, extraordinary. Okay, extraordinary. It's great to hear your journey, the progression that you've made.
Yeah. Thank you.
Final question.
Yeah.
Would you recommend the HND?
Well, on that basis, yes. Yes, I mean, because it opened my mind.
Yeah.
And that's a great gift.
Of course.
That's the best gift any educator can give to anybody.
Absolutely. Before we finish, I'd like to ask you about your Warsaw connection.
Yes.
In terms of well, you tell us.
This started, I was exhibition secretary, so 2009 I think it was. I was exhibition secretary of the Wolverhampton Society of Artists. And I put on their 2009 show with the curator at the gallery, was one Zoe Lippett.
Okay.
And they were always a bit nervous about this show. I think they'd had some interesting experiences in the past. Well, Zoe and I got on like a house on fire. It was a successful exhibition. And so I used to see her, and she'd go in the gallery, always hello Zoe, how are you, and so on. And she also lived in Stafford, and I'd had work in the Staffordshire Open a few times, so I'd see her at those exhibitions. And then she left Wolverhampton and went to work at Warsaw. I, in the meantime, had heard about Turning Point West Midlands, and I'd started to look at what they were doing.
Yes. And
they were putting out calls for people to apply for residencies and studio visits and so on and so forth. And I applied for a couple of residencies and got nowhere. I applied for a studio visit, and a chap called Cedar Lewison, do you know him?
Yeah.
He came to my studio.
Okay.
And he was another one who actually made a very telling comment that altered what I did. In terms of, I don't know if you remember, I used to make perspex things with bolts in the corner.
Yeah.
I put one up for him and he just said, those have got to go. I said, excuse me, I got a distinction for those at college. Well, I don't like them. He said, they catch my eye. So that set me off looking at, could I do this without bolts? And found somebody who would make perspex boxes for me.
Right, okay.
And I'd seen him again since that Warsaw, and he and told him, and he was obviously chuffed because it made a world of difference to the presentation of the work, and the presentation is so important.
Of course.
So anyway, then came a call for a residency at the New Art Gallery Warsaw, and I thought, that's interesting. It was to celebrate the 20th year of the building.
Okay.
It was called The Building as Material. And in fact, Zoe emailed me and said, you might be interested in this. I'd seen it already and said, I've seen this already, Zoe. Yes, I am. I will be applying. I didn't get it.
Right. Okay.
But when she emailed me to tell me I hadn't got it, she said, but would you like to have one early next year? That's for a month. So I said, well,
yeah.
certainly
Would I?
would, yes, yeah. And So I accepted that. And then when I went, I mean, it was excitement at first.
Yeah.
Then a bit of apprehension.
Yeah, of course.
And so I had to go in to sign the contract and meet all the people and so forth. And Zoe said, "How do you feel about this?" And I said, "Apprehensive, Zoe."
Yeah.
And she said, she said, "You came to see Richard Long's show." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "And he's an international artist, isn't he?" "Yes, he is." And she said, "You came when he was going to be interviewed by Stephen Snoddy?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "He was terrified. So it's all right for you to be apprehensive."
Yeah.
And so, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I found that experience. They gave me the studio. Do you know the studio?
Yeah.
It's a fabulous space.
Yeah.
I took some work in and hung it on the walls so that if anybody came in,
Of course.
there was something to talk about.
Yeah.
And they said to me, "You can leave the door open, you can have the blind down, you can lock yourself in or not, whatever you wish." And I decided I would leave the door open with a wedge on it. And every time somebody poked their head in and stayed for more than a couple of seconds, I'd say, "You can come in if you like."
Yeah.
And a lot of people then came in. I saw all sorts of people. I mean, Andrew Tift came in and introduced himself. Well, he's terrific.
Yeah.
Totally different artist.
Yeah, of course.
Totally different view. But now friends on Facebook and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And
Connections.
Yes, absolutely, connections. And my friend, Louise Blakeway, who was here with me.
Yeah.
She came in and she came in with other artists from around here and friends of hers and mutual friends.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved it.
Good.
And I decided, whilst I was there, that what I was going to do, I agreed with Zoe, that I would actually still work on Perspex, but I would try to present it differently.
Okay.
And in fact, you had some pictures of it on here earlier. I did 2 suspended pieces, and then another one after which I'll go on to. For me to play with the suspended pieces, the technicians came in and they put a metal grid hung from the ceiling so that I could move things around and play and change how I set them out.
Okay.
And that would work very well.
Yeah.
But that thing also cast the most fantastic shadow on the wall. And Zoe said, "Oh, we could draw that on the wall." And I said, and she also said to me, when she came to the end of the first month, she came in fairly frequently, but at the end of the first month we were reviewing how it had gone, and she said, "I think it's been successful if you moved it on." And she said, "Have you ever thought of doing a floor-mounted piece?" And I said, "Crikey, no, I haven't." She said, "Well, do you just think about that?" And my enthusiasm got the better of me. Because she then said, "If you want to do something, you can stay for another month. There's nobody coming in." She said, "I mean, joy of joys, they paid me for that month."
Wow. Wow. Can I stay another month? Yes, please.
Yeah, well, no. Then she said, "I haven't got any money in the budget, or enough money in the budget to pay you properly, but you can have what's left in the budget."
Fine.
Which actually covered the materials.
Right,
Which
okay.
was great. I'd have done it for nothing.
Of course.
And so I went and ordered 3 sheets of Perspex, which were 2 metres by 1 metre.
Quite large.
Quite
large.
Perspex. I will draw on these. I will draw that shadow on the wall on these in layers. And then I put them on the table and I started at the top. And I looked down and I thought, "Oh my God, how are you going to fill this with ink?" I mean, if you're crying out loud without just pouring it on.
Yeah.
But in fact, you get going.
Yeah, of course.
And I finished up then with that thing standing on the floor against the wall. And I've shown that a couple of times since.
Okay.
I've also struck up a friendship with a chap called Corin Salter Stevenson.
Okay.
And he runs the Asylum Art Gallery in Wolverhampton.
Yes.
And Artist Studios.
Yes.
And we've become quite good friends. And I've exhibited perhaps 3 times at Asylum now, and I've shown that in there. That big piece, I've shown it in the RBSA.
Right, okay.
It's just a pain to move it around.
Yes, of course.
But Zoe, I think, was really chuffed because it really changed my practice.
Yeah.
I also asked Ruth Claxton from East Side Projects to come in. And she came in on an opening evening when they'd got Warsaw-based architect, Muslim chap, Idris Khan. He had a show.
Yes.
What a show that was.
Yes.
Wonderful show.
Yes.
And she came in on that night and she looked at my work and she sort of said to the ones that were suspended, why have you framed them like that? And I said, well, that's a good question. And I suppose the answer, which is a very poor answer, is because that's the way I tend to approach these things on my 2D work. And she said, you could have used the whole area. And I did on that last piece.
Right, okay.
I used the whole area.
Wow.
So, again, it's just a small remark, but it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, yeah.
And that somebody else's experience eye on your work,
Yeah.
it's terrific to get that.
So actually, from foundation course and probably before to now, the HND has been part of this kind of melting pot and idea factory, and has also kind of not necessarily given you the confidence to do what you're doing now, to be where you are now, but it's given you a bit of a kickstart.
It was a catalyst.
Yeah.
It was a major catalyst to doing that.
Okay.
I mean, it did give me the kickstart, and it can kickstart the technical methods.
Of course.
But it also kickstarts the ideas.
Yes. Steve, I want to thank you very, very much indeed for coming in. I know you're busy, but I really appreciate you coming in and for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.